The clock had just struck midnight, and the neon sign outside a small roadside diner buzzed faintly against the darkness. Inside, the smell of coffee and frying bacon lingered in the air, though the place was nearly empty. Elon Musk, looking for a rare moment of solitude, had pulled off the highway during a late-night drive. Dressed in a casual hoodie and jeans, he slipped into a booth by the window, unnoticed by the few patrons scattered around. The diner had a weathered charm, its red vinyl booths and faded menu boards speaking to years of serving travelers and locals alike. Elon liked places like this, quiet, unassuming, and disconnected from the high-stakes world of technology and innovation that dominated his life. As he sipped his coffee, he observed the people around him. His gaze soon settled on a young woman moving quickly between tables, her movements brisk but unsteady. She wore a tired smile as she served a bowl of soup to an elderly man who sat hunched over, clearly grateful for her kindness. The waitress, Sarah, glanced over her shoulder toward the kitchen, where a young man, Daniel, was scrubbing dishes. Elon noticed the way their eyes met briefly, exchanging a look of quiet reassurance. Even through the haze of exhaustion etched on their faces, there was a palpable bond between them, a shared determination to keep moving forward, no matter how hard it got. Sarah approached Elon's table, her smile faltering slightly as she realized who he was. "What can I get you?" she asked, her voice polite but laced with weariness. "Just coffee, thanks," Elon replied, his tone casual. He watched as she poured the steaming liquid into his cup with practiced efficiency, then hurried off to tend to another table. The elderly man had dropped his spoon, and Sarah crouched to retrieve it, her knees cracking audibly as she rose. She laughed softly, brushing off the man's apology. "Don't worry about it," she said gently. "We've all been there." In the kitchen, Daniel emerged with a tray of clean plates, setting them on the counter before grabbing a mop to clean up a spill near the fryer. As the mop handle slipped from his grasp, Sarah rushed over to steady it, muttering something Elon couldn't quite hear. The two shared a quick smile before returning to their respective tasks. Elon's curiosity was piqued. It was rare to see such quiet resilience and teamwork, especially in a setting like this. He continued to watch as Sarah juggled orders, refilled coffee cups, and wiped down tables, while Daniel worked tirelessly behind the scenes. They moved as a unit, their synergy undeniable even in the face of exhaustion. As he finished his coffee and left cash on the table, Elon overheard a fragment of their conversation near the counter. "Rent's due next week," Sarah murmured, her voice barely audible. "If the car doesn't get fixed soon, I don't know how we'll make it to work." Daniel placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll figure it out," he said firmly. "We always do." The words stayed with Elon as he walked out into the cool night air. He paused beside his car, glancing back at the diner through its large glass windows. The image of the couple, united against the challenges they faced, tugged at something deep within him. He knew what it was like to struggle, to push through adversity with little more than grit and determination. Sliding into the driver's seat, Elon turned the key, the engine roaring to life. But as he drove off, he couldn't shake the thought of Sarah and Daniel. Their story wasn't his business, and yet, something about their quiet perseverance called to him. He resolved to learn more, unaware that this decision would set in motion a chain of events that would change their lives forever. As Elon drove away from the diner, his mind lingered on Sarah and Daniel. Their quiet determination and the bond they seemed to share piqued his curiosity. He couldn't help but wonder what had brought them to this point. They didn't strike him as people resigned to their fate, but as fighters, people who carried a sense of purpose despite the odds stacked against them. Back at the diner, Sarah and Daniel worked through the final hours of their shift. The once busy space had quieted, leaving just the hum of the coffee machine and the clatter of Daniel's mop as he finished cleaning. Sarah sank into a booth, her feet aching and her hands raw from scrubbing tables. She watched Daniel with a tired smile, feeling a swell of gratitude for him even in the bleakness of their circumstances. They hadn't always lived like this. A few years ago, their lives had been filled with promise. Sarah and Daniel had met during their first year of college at a bustling university. She had been studying culinary arts, dreaming of one day opening her own bakery, a place filled with the smell of freshly baked bread and the warmth of community. Daniel had been an industrial design student, passionate about crafting furniture that blended beauty and functionality. Their dreams seemed to align perfectly. Sarah imagined her baked goods displayed on Daniel's handmade shelves, their talents complementing each other in a way that felt destined. They had fallen in love quickly, their connection deepened by shared goals and late-night talks about the future. They saved what little money they had, sketching out business plans on the backs of napkins and talking endlessly about the café they would someday open. They called it the Hearth, envisioning a cozy space that felt like home to anyone who walked through its doors. But life had other plans. In their second year, Daniel's father was diagnosed with a rare and aggressive form of cancer. The medical bills mounted quickly, draining the small savings the couple had managed to scrape together. Daniel dropped out of school to work full-time, sending most of his paycheck back home to help his family. Sarah followed shortly after, leaving her culinary program to support Daniel and contribute to their mounting expenses. Their dreams of the Hearth slowly faded into the background as survival became their priority. They moved into a tiny, run-down apartment and took whatever jobs they could find. Sarah as a waitress, Daniel in a series of part-time gigs. The weight of their struggles was heavy, but it didn't break them. If anything, it strengthened their bond. They leaned on each other during the hardest moments, finding comfort in small, shared rituals. Baking cookies together in their cramped kitchen, or staying up late talking about what they'd do if they ever caught a break. Still, the hardships wore on them. The physical toll of long shifts and constant worry showed in the dark circles under Sarah's eyes and the way Daniel's shoulders slumped at the end of each day. Yet through it all, they never let go of the quiet hope that somehow, someday, things might change. Sarah still dreamed of baking pastries for her own café, and Daniel often sketched furniture designs during his breaks, imagining a future where his creations could fill their dream space. As they closed the diner that night, Sarah locked the doors while Daniel stacked the last of the chairs. "Another day down," she said softly, her voice tinged with exhaustion but also with a quiet determination. Daniel nodded, slipping an arm around her shoulders. "We'll get there," he said, his voice steady. "One way or another, we'll figure it out." They walked home under the dim glow of streetlights, unaware that someone had noticed their struggle, someone who would soon change their lives in ways they couldn't have imagined. Elon returned home that night, but sleep didn't come easily. As he sat in his dimly lit living room, sipping a glass of water, his thoughts kept drifting back to the young couple at the diner. Their quiet resilience and the way they supported each other through their visible exhaustion lingered in his mind. It wasn't just their situation that struck him. It was their unwavering kindness. In the fleeting moments he had observed them, they had shown more compassion and determination than many people he had encountered in his high-powered world. He thought back to his early days, long before Tesla, SpaceX, or his ventures into renewable energy. Back then, he had slept on office floors, eaten cheap food, and lived paycheck to paycheck while working tirelessly to turn his ideas into something tangible. There had been moments of doubt, times when success seemed impossibly out of reach, but he had pressed on because he believed in his vision. Watching Sarah and Daniel, Elon saw a reflection of that same relentless determination, a belief that things could get better, despite overwhelming odds. Unable to shake the feeling, Elon reached for his phone and sent a message to one of his assistants, asking them to gather more information about the couple. His curiosity wasn't born of idle interest. It was a gut feeling that their story mattered. He wanted to understand their circumstances better, to see if there was a way he could help. The next morning, Elon's assistant provided a brief report. Sarah and Daniel were exactly as they appeared, hardworking, honest, and struggling to make ends meet. The two had left college prematurely due to financial hardship, particularly after Daniel's father fell ill. The report included details about their dreams of opening a small cafe called the Hearth, an idea that had been shelved in the face of mounting debt and endless shifts at low-paying jobs. Elon read through the notes carefully, his expression softening. He admired their tenacity but was struck by how close they seemed to losing hope entirely. Their car had broken down weeks ago, leaving them to rely on public transportation to commute to the diner. They lived in a cramped apartment on the edge of town, their income barely covering rent and basic expenses. Yet even in the face of such adversity, they hadn't given up on supporting each other. As he scrolled through the report, Elon came across a detail that stopped him in his tracks. Attached was a photo of one of Daniel's sketches, an intricate drawing of a handcrafted wooden table, its elegant curves and thoughtful design a testament to his talent. Next to it was a note about Sarah's passion for baking, including a recipe she had once shared with a local community blog. It was for a simple loaf of sourdough bread, but the post's comments were filled with praise, with one person calling it the best bread I've ever tasted. For a moment, Elon sat in silence, the report still open on his tablet. The couple's dreams weren't far-fetched or impossible. They were rooted in talent, passion, and a desire to build something meaningful together. They didn't need charity. They needed an opportunity. And if there was one thing Elon believed in, it was the power of opportunity to transform lives. By the time he finished his coffee that morning, Elon had made up his mind. He drafted an email to his assistant, outlining a plan that would change Sarah and Daniel's lives forever. It wasn't just about giving them money or a new car. It was about reigniting their belief in their own potential, providing them with the tools to build the future they had once dreamed of. As he hit send, a faint smile crossed his face. He didn't know exactly how they would react, but he was certain of one thing. This couple, with their quiet strength and unshakable bond, deserved a chance to thrive. And he was going to make sure they got it. The diner was unusually quiet that afternoon, the slow trickle of customers giving Sarah and Daniel a rare moment to catch their breath. Sarah wiped down a table near the window, glancing outside as the sun streamed through the glass. Daniel emerged from the kitchen, rubbing his hands on a towel. He gave her a tired but reassuring smile as he passed, heading toward the counter to refill the coffee machine. The familiar rhythm of their day was interrupted when a sleek Tesla pulled into the small parking lot. Sarah noticed it first, the car gleaming like something out of a magazine. She nudged Daniel, who joined her at the window, both of them exchanging curious looks. Tesla vehicles weren't exactly common in their part of town, and neither could imagine who it belonged to. A sharply dressed man stepped out, carrying a leather folder under one arm. He glanced around briefly before making his way into the diner. His presence immediately caught the attention of the staff and the few customers seated at tables. He approached Sarah and Daniel directly, his movements confident but unassuming. "Sarah and Daniel?" he asked, glancing between them with a polite smile. Yes?" Sarah replied, her voice uncertain. The man extended the folder toward them. "My name is Michael, and I'm here on behalf of Elon Musk. He's asked me to deliver this to you personally." The couple exchanged bewildered glances. Sarah hesitated before taking the folder, her hands trembling slightly. She opened it carefully, revealing a single envelope with their names written in bold, elegant script. Inside was a letter printed on Tesla letterhead, its message brief but astounding. "Dear Sarah and Daniel, I would like to invite you to meet me at Tesla's headquarters in Palo Alto. Your resilience and kindness have inspired me, and I believe there's an opportunity for us to work together. Please let my team know if you're available this week, and they will arrange transportation. Sincerely, Elon Musk." Sarah stared at the letter, her mind racing. She handed it to Daniel, who read it twice before looking up, his face a mixture of disbelief and confusion. "This has to be a mistake," Daniel said, shaking his head. "Why would Elon Musk want to meet us?" Michael, still standing nearby, interjected. "I assure you it's no mistake. Mr. Musk was very clear about wanting to speak with both of you. If you're available, we can arrange for transportation to Tesla's headquarters tomorrow." Sarah's thoughts spun as she tried to make sense of it all. She glanced at Daniel, who seemed just as overwhelmed. "Why us?" she finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Michael's polite smile softened. "Mr. Musk has a keen eye for people who make an impact, no matter how small it might seem. He's noticed something in both of you that he believes is worth exploring." The couple fell silent, the weight of the moment pressing down on them. After a long pause, Daniel turned to Sarah, his voice steady but cautious. "What do you think? Should we go?" Sarah hesitated, her mind filled with doubts. But then she looked at Daniel, his face still carrying the same determination that had kept them going through years of struggle. She nodded slowly. "We should. I mean, what if this is the break we've been waiting for?" Michael took their nods as confirmation and handed them a business card. "We'll arrange everything. A car will pick you up at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Just be yourselves. Mr. Musk values authenticity above all else. As Michael left, the couple sat in stunned silence, the letter lying on the table between them like a beacon of hope. The idea of meeting someone as influential as Elon Musk felt surreal, almost impossible. Yet deep down, both Sarah and Daniel couldn't help but feel a spark of excitement. For the first time in years, it felt like their struggles might lead to something extraordinary. The drive to Tesla's headquarters was both thrilling and nerve-wracking for Sarah and Daniel. They sat in the back seat of the sleek black Tesla sent to pick them up, watching the scenery blur past as they approached Palo Alto. Neither spoke much, their minds preoccupied with questions and a healthy dose of apprehension. The letter from Elon Musk had been straightforward, but the reason for his interest in them remained a mystery. They clung to each other's hands for reassurance, their silent connection a reminder of how far they had come together. As the Tesla pulled into the sprawling campus, their breath caught. The headquarters was a marvel of modern architecture, its clean lines and reflective glass shimmering under the California sun. Employees buzzed around the campus, their pace purposeful and efficient. Sarah and Daniel exchanged wide-eyed glances, feeling small, yet captivated by the sheer scale of the operation. They were greeted at the entrance by a friendly staff member who escorted them inside, explaining that Elon was eager to meet them personally. The interior was just as impressive, a seamless blend of cutting-edge technology and minimalist design. Sarah glanced at Daniel, her nerves showing, but his steady presence calmed her. When they were led into a private conference room, Elon Musk was already there, casually dressed in a dark blazer and a simple t-shirt. He stood as they entered, offering a genuine smile that immediately put them at ease. "Sarah, Daniel," he said warmly, extending a hand to each of them. "I'm so glad you could make it." "Thank you for inviting us," Sarah replied, her voice trembling slightly as she shook his hand. Daniel followed suit, nodding politely but unable to hide his amazement at meeting one of the world's most influential figures. "Please sit," Elon gestured, taking his seat across the table. "I'm sure you're wondering why you're here." They nodded, their curiosity palpable. Elon leaned forward, his expression thoughtful. "A few nights ago, I stopped by the diner where you work. What struck me wasn't just the food or the service. It was the way you both carried yourselves. Despite everything, there was kindness, resilience, and an undeniable connection between you two. I couldn't stop thinking about it." Sarah and Daniel exchanged stunned glances, unsure of how to respond. Elon continued, his tone sincere. "I did some research and learned about your story. You've faced challenges most people can't imagine, yet you've held on to your dreams. That's rare, and it's worth investing in." He reached for a folder on the table and slid it toward them. Inside was a detailed outline of a proposal that left them speechless. Elon explained that he wanted to help them bring their long-forgotten vision of the Hearth to life. He offered to fully fund their café, provide mentorship through his team, and even connect them with industry experts to ensure its success. "You mean, you want to help us start our business?" Daniel asked, his voice laced with disbelief. "Not just help," Elon clarified. "I want to give you the tools to succeed. The talent is already there. It's clear in your sketches and Sarah's recipes and how you support each other. What you need is the opportunity to bring it all together." Sarah's eyes filled with tears and she quickly wiped them away. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "This feels like too much." Elon smiled gently. "It's not too much. You've already done the hard part, keeping your dream alive when it felt impossible. Now it's time to make it real." Overwhelmed, they hesitated, the enormity of the offer sinking in. "What if we fail?" Daniel asked, voicing the fear that lingered in both their hearts. "Failure is part of the process," Elon said firmly. "The only real failure is not trying." Sarah and Daniel looked at each other, their hands clasped tightly. For the first time in years, they felt the spark of possibility reigniting. Together they nodded, ready to embrace the extraordinary opportunity before them. The days following their meeting with Elon Musk were a whirlwind of activity for Sarah and Daniel. They had barely processed the enormity of his offer when a team of advisors, business consultants, and creative professionals reached out to guide them through the process of building their dream cafe, the Hearth. For the first time in years, their long-dormant plans were not just being dusted off, but elevated to a level they'd never imagined. Sitting in a brightly lit conference room at Tesla's campus, Sarah and Daniel were surrounded by people who believed in their vision. A branding expert discussed how to capture the warmth and community spirit they wanted the Hearth to embody, while a financial consultant explained budgeting strategies to ensure the cafe's success. Despite the support, both Sarah and Daniel felt overwhelmed. The sudden shift from barely scraping by to planning a business with Elon Musk's backing was daunting. Sarah felt the weight of expectation in every decision she made. While discussing her menu ideas with a culinary mentor, she struggled to articulate her vision. "I know what I want the cafe to feel like," she said hesitantly. "But what if my recipes aren't good enough? What if people don't come back?" Her mentor smiled, placing a reassuring hand on hers. "Every great chef starts with doubt, Sarah. The key is to trust your instincts and remember why you love what you do." Meanwhile, Daniel faced his own challenges. Sitting in a workshop space provided by SpaceX, he worked on refining his furniture designs. The tools and materials available to him were far superior to anything he'd used before, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he didn't belong. One afternoon, as he sketched a set of chairs, he let out a frustrated sigh and pushed the paper away. An industrial designer working alongside him noticed his struggle. "What's on your mind?" she asked, her tone kind but direct. "I'm not sure I'm cut out for this," Daniel admitted. "It's one thing to dream about making furniture for our cafe, but now it feels bigger than me." The designer studied his sketches, then looked at him with a smile. "Your designs have heart, Daniel. That's not something you can teach. Everything else? You'll learn. Just take it one step at a time." Despite the encouragement from those around them, the couple's insecurities occasionally bubbled to the surface. One evening, after a particularly long day of meetings and workshops, Sarah and Daniel returned to their small apartment. Exhausted, Sarah slumped onto the couch, her head in her hands. "What if we're in over our heads?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Daniel sat beside her, taking her hand. "I've been asking myself the same thing," he admitted. "But then I think about what Elon said, that the real failure would be not trying. We've dreamed about this for so long. I don't want to let fear stop us now." His words rekindled Sarah's determination. They reminded her of the countless nights they'd spent sketching plans for the Hearth, believing in each other even when the odds were stacked against them. Together they resolved to lean on each other and the team Elon had provided, trusting that their shared vision would guide them. As weeks turned into months, Sarah and Daniel began to find their rhythm. Sarah perfected her recipes, creating a menu that combined comfort and creativity, while Daniel's furniture designs brought warmth and character to the cafe's interior. With each small victory, their confidence grew. They began to see the Hearth not just as a distant dream, but as a tangible reality, taking shape before their eyes. Elon checked in periodically, offering advice that was both practical and inspiring. "Remember," he told them during one visit, "success isn't about never failing. It's about learning and adapting. You two have the passion and the vision. That's what matters." By the end of their preparation phase, Sarah and Daniel were no longer the hesitant, overwhelmed couple who had first walked into Tesla's headquarters. They had transformed into determined business owners, ready to share their dream with the world. The challenges they'd faced only made their journey more meaningful, and they knew they were on the brink of something extraordinary. The sun rose on the morning of the Hearth's grand opening, casting a warm golden glow over the small cafe nestled in the heart of the town. Sarah and Daniel stood outside the freshly painted storefront, its elegant sign crafted by Daniel's hands hanging proudly above the door. The cafe had come to life exactly as they had envisioned, cozy, welcoming, and infused with their personal touch. Inside, the smell of freshly baked bread and pastries wafted through the air, mingling with the soft scent of polished wood from Daniel's handmade tables and chairs. A line had already begun forming before the doors officially opened, made up of curious locals and a few familiar faces from the diner. Word of their journey and Elon Musk's involvement had spread throughout the community, sparking excitement and curiosity. Sarah smoothed her apron nervously, glancing at Daniel, who gave her a reassuring nod. "We've got this," he said quietly, squeezing her hand. At 9 a.m., the doors opened and the first customers stepped inside, greeted by the soft glow of natural light streaming through the large windows. The cafe buzzed with conversation as people admired the handcrafted furniture and sampled Sarah's pastries. Each bite seemed to bring a smile, and soon the atmosphere was filled with warmth and laughter. Amid the steady stream of customers, a familiar face appeared at the door, drawing a collective gasp from those inside. Elon Musk walked in, dressed casually but exuding his unmistakable presence. Sarah froze for a moment, her tray of pastries trembling in her hands. Daniel quickly stepped to her side, his own shock giving way to a wide grin. Elon approached them with a smile. "This place is incredible," he said, his gaze sweeping over the bustling cafe. "You two have done something really special here." "Thank you," Sarah managed, her voice shaking slightly. "We couldn't have done it without your support." Elon shook his head. "You had the vision and the drive. All I did was give you the tools to make it happen." The cafe's patrons couldn't help but watch as Elon mingled with Sarah and Daniel, occasionally stopping to speak with customers and sample a few of Sarah's creations. He complimented the honey-glazed scones and took a particular liking to a rustic wooden chair designed by Daniel, remarking on its craftsmanship. "This is exactly what I meant when I said art and functionality can coexist," he told Daniel, his words leaving the young craftsman beaming. As the day unfolded, the cafe's success became undeniable. People from all walks of life filled the space, sharing stories and enjoying the warmth that Sarah and Daniel had worked so hard to create. The couple moved effortlessly through the crowd, Sarah refilling coffee cups and Daniel explaining the stories behind his furniture. It was a day filled with connection, the very essence of what the Hearth was meant to embody. Toward the end of the day, Sarah and Daniel found a quiet moment in the kitchen, leaning against the counter as they watched the bustling cafe through the small window in the door. "Can you believe this is really happening?" Sarah asked, her voice tinged with wonder. Daniel smiled, his eyes reflecting the same disbelief. "Barely. But seeing everyone here, it's like all the struggles were worth it." They returned to the floor just in time to see Elon preparing to leave. He approached them one last time, his expression proud but calm. "You've created something that's more than just a cafe," he said. "You've created a place where people feel connected. That's rare, and it's something to be proud of." As Elon walked out the door, the couple watched him go, their hearts full of gratitude. Around them, the cafe continued to buzz with life, a testament to what they had built together. For the first time in years, they felt like they belonged, not just to their community, but to a shared dream that had finally become a reality. In the weeks following the grand opening of the Hearth, Sarah and Daniel found themselves adjusting to the unexpected success of their cafe. Word of mouth spread quickly, and the place became a hub for the community. Customers loved Sarah's pastries and praised Daniel's handcrafted furniture, with some even placing orders for custom pieces. It seemed as though their hard work was finally paying off. But as the cafe gained momentum, new challenges emerged. One morning, Sarah was reviewing their inventory when she noticed a glaring issue. Key ingredients for her most popular recipes hadn't been delivered. Flour, butter, and other essentials were delayed due to supply chain issues with one of their vendors. She stared at the empty shelves, her mind racing with panic. Without these ingredients, she couldn't make the scones, croissants, and muffins that had become staples for their customers. At the same time, Daniel was facing his own hurdle. The demand for his furniture designs had grown rapidly, and he was struggling to keep up with orders. The small workspace behind the cafe was no longer sufficient, and delays in sourcing high-quality wood added to his frustration. He spent late nights trying to meet deadlines, his body aching from the physical labor and his mind weighed down by the pressure. When Sarah approached him that evening to share her concerns about the supply chain issues, the strain became evident. They sat together at one of the cafe's tables, the once cozy space now feeling overwhelming under the weight of their problems. "What are we going to do?" Sarah asked, her voice cracking. "If we can't deliver what people expect, they'll stop coming. And if they stop coming..." Daniel rubbed his temples, finishing her thought silently. "I don't know," he admitted, his tone heavy with defeat. "It feels like everything's spiraling out of control." The stress reignited their insecurities, the fears they had buried during the excitement of building their dream. What if they weren't ready for this? What if their success had been a fluke, and they were destined to fail after all? The next morning, still feeling the weight of their struggles, Sarah received an unexpected call. It was from Elon Musk. "How's everything going at the Hearth?" he asked, his voice calm but perceptive. Sarah hesitated, not wanting to sound ungrateful, but she couldn't hide the stress in her voice. It's been challenging, she admitted. We're facing delays with supplies, and it's starting to affect everything. Elon paused for a moment before responding. Challenges are inevitable when you're building something new. The question is how you approach them. Let's figure this out together. Later that day, Elon arrived at the cafe unannounced, his presence immediately lifting Sarah and Daniel's spirits. He sat with them at one of Daniel's handcrafted tables, listening intently as they explained their struggles. Elon's ability to simplify complex problems became evident as he offered solutions. For the supply chain issues, Elon suggested diversifying their vendors and leveraging relationships with local farmers and suppliers. You'd be surprised how willing people are to support a small business with a meaningful story like yours, he said. For Daniel's challenges with furniture production, Elon recommended scaling strategically by outsourcing basic tasks while focusing on his unique designs. You don't have to do it all yourself, he emphasized. Let others handle the repetitive work so you can focus on what makes your pieces special. By the end of the meeting, Sarah and Daniel felt a renewed sense of clarity and determination. With Elon's guidance, they began implementing changes immediately. Sarah reached out to nearby farmers, securing fresh, high-quality ingredients while reducing dependency on unreliable suppliers. Daniel connected with a local workshop that could assist with basic assembly, freeing him to focus on crafting custom designs. The setback, while stressful, became a turning point. It reminded Sarah and Daniel that challenges didn't have to define their journey. They could be opportunities to learn and grow. Together, they tackled the issues head-on, leaning on each other as they always had. Slowly but surely, the hearth found its rhythm again, stronger than before. As Sarah and Daniel implemented the changes Elon had suggested, they began to see the cafe not just as a business, but as a reflection of their resilience. The adjustments weren't easy. Reaching out to local farmers meant long hours of building relationships and ensuring consistent quality, while partnering with a workshop required trust and a willingness to delegate. Yet, with each challenge they overcame, their confidence grew. The initial panic that had weighed them down was replaced with a steady determination. The results spoke for themselves. Customers began noticing subtle but meaningful improvements. The pastries were fresher, the flavors richer, and Daniel's handcrafted furniture seemed even more unique as he poured his creativity into custom designs. The hearth regained its momentum, its warm and inviting atmosphere drawing people from neighboring towns who had heard of the cafe through word of mouth. One afternoon, Sarah was in the kitchen rolling dough when she heard the sound of laughter coming from the dining area. Peeking through the window in the door, she saw a group of customers admiring one of Daniel's tables. They weren't just appreciating the furniture. They were talking about how the cafe felt like more than a business. It's like a place where stories are shared, one customer said, their words bringing a smile to Sarah's face. As the hearth thrived, its story began to attract attention beyond the local community. A small-town journalist visited one morning, drawn by the buzz around the cafe. Sarah and Daniel shared their journey candidly, talking about their early struggles, the kindness of strangers, and how Elon Musk had stepped in at a critical moment. The article, titled "From Struggles to Success, The Heartwarming Story of the Hearth," resonated with readers, quickly gaining traction online. Soon, larger media outlets picked up the story. A national morning show invited Sarah and Daniel for an interview, showcasing their cafe as an example of perseverance and the transformative power of community support. Sitting on the studio couch, Sarah nervously clutched Daniel's hand as they shared their experience with millions of viewers. "We didn't think we'd ever get here," she admitted, her voice filled with emotion. "But we've learned that even in the darkest moments, there's always a way forward if you don't give up." Their humility and authenticity struck a chord with audiences. People from across the country began visiting the hearth, eager to experience the cafe and meet the couple behind its success. The influx of customers was overwhelming at first, but Sarah and Daniel approached it with the same teamwork that had carried them through their toughest days. They hired a small team to help manage the growing business, creating jobs for others in the community. The cafe's success also inspired Sarah and Daniel to give back. They began hosting free workshops on entrepreneurship, sharing the lessons they had learned about overcoming obstacles and staying true to their vision. Sarah taught aspiring bakers how to perfect their recipes, while Daniel showed young designers how to turn their ideas into functional pieces. The workshops quickly gained popularity, and the cafe became a hub for creativity and mentorship. One day, as they were closing up the cafe after a particularly busy evening, Sarah and Daniel sat together at one of Daniel's tables, enjoying a quiet moment. "Can you believe how far we've come?" Sarah asked, her voice filled with wonder. Daniel looked around the cafe, the soft glow of the lights highlighting the space they had built together. "Sometimes it feels like a dream," he admitted. "But then I see people here, laughing, sharing, learning, and I realize it's real. We made this happen." The couple's journey became a symbol of hope, a reminder that even the most difficult circumstances could be transformed with hard work, faith, and the kindness of others. As they reflected on their growth, Sarah and Daniel knew they weren't just building a business. They were creating a legacy that would inspire others for years to come. As the Hearth continued to flourish, the story of Sarah and Daniel became an enduring symbol of perseverance and the transformative power of kindness. The cafe wasn't just a place to eat or admire beautiful furniture. It had become a gathering spot where people from all walks of life connected over shared stories, laughter, and inspiration. It was a space that radiated warmth, not just from the smell of fresh bread or the glow of handcrafted lights, but from the spirit of its founders. Their journey soon attracted the attention of a major media network, which invited Elon Musk to speak about his involvement. In a candid interview, Elon reflected on the chance encounter that had sparked everything. "What stood out to me about Sarah and Daniel wasn't just their resilience, but their kindness," he said. "Even in the face of their own struggles, they were giving to others, whether it was a kind word to a customer or helping each other through a tough day. That kind of humanity is what inspires progress." Supporting them was less about charity and more about believing in their potential. Elon went on to explain how the couple's story reaffirmed his belief in the importance of fostering creativity and resilience. "We often focus on the big picture, technology, innovation, solving global problems. But it's the small, personal stories that remind us why we do what we do." Sarah and Daniel didn't just build a cafe, they built a community. The interview resonated deeply, sparking conversations online about the ripple effects of kindness and opportunity. People shared similar stories of moments when a helping hand had changed their lives, creating a wave of inspiration across social media. The hashtag #the Hearth effect began trending, symbolizing the impact that one act of generosity could have on countless others. For Sarah and Daniel, the attention brought mixed emotions. They were grateful for the recognition but remained grounded, never forgetting the struggles that had shaped them. During a local news feature, Sarah shared, "What Elon did for us wasn't just about funding. He reminded us to believe in ourselves when it felt impossible. That's something we'll carry with us forever." Daniel added, "We've learned that success isn't just about achieving your dreams. It's about sharing them. The cafe isn't just ours anymore. It belongs to everyone who walks through those doors." With their newfound platform, Sarah and Daniel expanded their workshops, mentoring more young entrepreneurs and artisans. They also started a small scholarship fund, using a portion of the cafe's profits to support students pursuing creative fields. "We know what it's like to feel stuck, to wonder if your dreams are out of reach," Sarah said during a community event. "If we can help even one person move closer to their goals, it's worth it." One quiet evening, long after the cafe had closed for the day, Sarah and Daniel sat together on one of Daniel's handcrafted benches in the cafe's garden. The stars above were bright, the air filled with the soft rustle of leaves. They held hands, reflecting on everything that had brought them to this moment. "It's hard to believe how far we've come," Sarah said softly, her voice filled with gratitude. Daniel squeezed her hand. "We wouldn't have made it without each other," he said, "and without the kindness of people like Elon." As they sat in peaceful silence, they realized that the Hearth had become more than they ever imagined. It was a legacy, not just of their hard work, but of the love, resilience, and kindness that had carried them through. Sarah and Daniel's story shows the extraordinary impact of compassion and determination. Who in your life might need a helping hand or a kind word today? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more stories that celebrate the power of connection and humanity.